We're hearing once again about keeping the commandments, and we're also hearing about the choice of Matthias as an apostle. So there is the choosing and the keeping of the commandments. What Jesus is saying, he was speaking to the apostles, but he also speaks to you and me. He speaks, as he says here, you did not choose me. And so, you can be here thinking, oh, okay, I chose to watch this. I chose to continue in my faith. I chose this. But the reality is, before you or me ever making that choice, God had made his choice. He had chosen us. And Scripture tells us that he chose us before we were born. He has always desired us. His choice is for you. And not you generally, but you specifically. You who are watching this, he has chosen you. He desires you. He desires that you be friends. Not servants, but friends. And how do we become his friends? How do we become a friend of God? We might be wondering, we might not want to become a friend of God. We might think, well, actually, the whole idea of being a friend of God is quite a scary thing. Friend of Jesus, how could I ever be that? But we have to think, who is it that we are friends with? Who is it that wants our friendship? Love incarnate. Love made flesh. Love made visible. God made visible. And God is love. Just love. And love desires you. He chooses you. He wants to fill you with himself. He wants to make it personal, because for God it is personal. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. How much does the Father love the Son? We can't even imagine. It is infinite in power, infinite in size, depth, height, width. It is beyond anything we could imagine. The love of the Father for God the Son. And Jesus the Son says, as the Father has loved me, that infinite love, so I have loved you. That is how much you're loved. Completely unconditional, no holds barred. Remain in my love. Remain in my love. God, Jesus wants you to remain in him, to abide in him so that he can abide in you. And how do we do that? If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, keeping his commandments, doing what he says. If you keep my word, Jesus says earlier in the text, if you keep my word, if you keep my commandments, I will remain in you, I will abide in you, and you will abide in me. Here, if you keep my commandments, and you will remain in my love. Just as I have kept my Father's commandments. And Jesus, as we know, was obedient unto death. Even when it caused him suffering and death, he still obeyed. What are the commandments? We'll hear about those afterwards. But essentially, it is living the teachings of Scripture, living the teaching of the church, living the 10 Commandments. What does that boil down to? Oh, rules. But these commandments, keep my commandments, those commandments are commandments of love. The 10 commandments are commandments of love. The first 3 are all about loving God. The other 7 are about loving your neighbor. The scribe, as you remember in one of the texts, comes to Jesus and said, Lord, which is the greatest of the commandments? And Jesus says, the greatest of the commandment is this, that you should love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength. This is the greatest commandment. And the next is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus' commandments are commandments of love. If you remain in my love, if you keep my commandments, you'll remain in my love. Because when we keep his commandments, we love. That's what we do when we keep his commandments. The commandments of love, and so we love when we keep his commandments. Just as he's kept, and so doing that, we remain in his love. I've told you this so that my joy may be in you and your joy complete. Because he will dwell in us through his Spirit. It's interesting. He says that you are my friends if you do what I command you. Does that mean that Jesus, if we're not doing, if we don't do what Jesus says, then we're somehow, Jesus doesn't want to know us, so he doesn't want to be friends with us. You're not doing what I've said, so I'm not playing with you anymore. Is that what's going on here? If you do my command, what's it say exactly again? I call you, you're my friends if you do what I command you. It sounds like it's conditional. His friendship is conditional. But friendship is a two-way thing. And I'm sure most of you, and certainly myself, know people that you have been friends with, good friends, have had deep friendship with. And then for some reason, it's broken. And they've gone their own way, much to your heartache. As much as you'd want to continue that friendship, they've gone. If you do, you are my friends if you do what I command. His friendship is always there. That invitation is always there to enter into that friendship. But you and I have to choose it. We have to choose love. Jesus is love made visible. And we have to choose him. And we choose him by living lives of love. Loving the Lord our God with all our heart, all our mind, and all our strength. And then loving our neighbor as ourself. As ourself? Yes, but more. Love one another as I have loved you. As I have loved you. This is love made visible. Love who lays down his life for his beloved, you.